Hey, everybody, Merry Christmas. It's This Week in Mormons. I'm Jeff Openshaw, wishing you well. Groggy morning voice here, but I have no excuses whatsoever because my co-host this week, for some reason, is less groggy than I am, even though he's 2 hours earlier. I don't even know how you're awake at this hour. But Richie Stedman, Cultural Hall, what's going on, man?
The early bird catches the news.
Do you actually, I guess I don't think about if we interact at nighttime. When do you actually go to bed? Do you sleep?
I don't go to bed at night, and I don't really have to wake up in the morning.
What time do you actually go to bed usually? For real?
Honestly, probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock or so, and then I roll out.
You're probably
come to work at like 4 in the morning.
The life of the morning drive, huh?
Well, you don't have to tell me about it.
I mean, I growing up listening to old Kevin Bean in California, I always thought the morning drive. Well, that's the coveted gig. That's the one. But I'm like, dude, these people are up at like 3 in the morning to make this possible.
Now, did you listen to the Kevin Bean when they were actually together in the same studio, or were you in the era of Kevin and Bean where they tried to make it sound like Kevin and Bean were in the same place, and one of them was in the studio that was like next door to his bedroom, and so he didn't have to go anymore? Do you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Yes, all of it. All of it. I mean, I grew up in the era in the '90s when it was very cool to have the K-Rock stickers, and you'd put them all over your stuff. Everyone had K-Rock stickers because it was cool.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, Bean worked into his contract later on to be able to move out to Vashon Island in Puget Sound, and they built him a full-blown home studio. And most of the time, you couldn't really tell the difference. He was fine. And then then Bean retired. And I couldn't believe they didn't even fly him down to the studio for his retirement. This was only a couple of years ago. So he's literally on the monitor, not even there for his last show with the show. And then Kevin carried on, and then they unceremoniously just canceled Kevin with everybody else a year later.
Yep.
And
what that is? That is a perfect example of the industry of which I work in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you're really great. We care about you a lot. Actually, today we don't care about you anymore. We're done. We are done.
Which is amazing. It's like, dude, we've been on the air for 35 years here in this network, but sure, okay,
you done. Do you. Done.
It's only a matter of time until they have a podcast because that is what everyone.
Yep. Have you guys heard about these podcasts? It's very exciting, this podcast. And then for you and I, who have been in it for more than 11 years, we're like, yeah, guys, hey, welcome to the party.
I want to give Apple credit for creating a new word. I mean, a podcast is a simple concept. It's essentially a radio show that's just pre-recorded and distributed differently, right? Distributed for download instead of over the air. But the whole term came about because Apple basically created the idea, and because of their iPod world, they called it a podcast. Nobody thought much of it, and now it is a standard industry term used across different, platforms and everything. They created a whole word.
I met the guy who created the first ever podcast available.
And was this a guy who just sat down and recorded something and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to export this at 96 kbps, and I'm just going to let people download it, and I'm going to call it a podcast instead of a spoken word album. I mean, how did he decide?
I mean, it was something like that, but knowing that he is the first person to have ever done it, he's unbearable to be
How does he know this? How do you prove that you're the first person to record something with talking and ask people to download it? What made him define it that way?
So there's this website, this date in the internet history, and then you can go back and you can look and see when other people do it. I guess I don't know if that's really how he did it, but whether or not he was the first or not, he was unbearable to be around because he felt like he was.
Was this guy at the conference? Was he at the conference? Was he one of the speakers? Oh yeah.
Yes.
He is probably riding that gravy train all he can.
And we all know that person, right? The one who has the one thing that they hang their hat on in their life, and they're like, yeah, this, and you're like, yeah, yep, yep, we know that about you. Great, yes. Oh, you did? Oh, you dare say?
That's me and this podcast. That's all I have. That's it. We're finishing We're coming up to start year 13 now here soon, I think, and it's all I have to show for it.
As the song would tell me, it is the original Mormon news.
I love that song. Richie, I know you've got your whatever. Your little intro always makes me think like I'm watching an old Hailstorm movie. That's all I can think of every time I hear it. Probably because you took it from one of those. I have no idea.
But, it actually, you didn't ask, but I'll tell you.
It's ska. It's ska, though.
It's ska. It's from. It actually was in a Hailstorm movie.
Was that one from the Singles Ward?
Yeah, the original Singles Ward. It's Book of Mormon stories done in ska version. But I actually knew the band. I followed them around in college.
Did you get the rights for Cultural
They were
Hall?
the Solutions, as in Soulutions. And I just asked him permission. I didn't get like written permission. In fact, a couple of years ago, the lead singer, who has since left the church, said,
come on,
"Did we give you permission for that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you did." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, you did. I used to dabble in this world of assuming fair use for various purposes, and I've transitioned away from that. Because as time goes on, you're like, well, like you listen to NPR or something at the end of segments, they're just like randomly playing outro of popular music. I'm assuming they just up and do it, and you're like, no, they're probably actually going to lengths to message the publishers and say, can we? Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. And that's how you get things like the Mormon News Wrap that we've had for years, thanks to Fiverr, one of the greatest websites in the world. That's how you get those things done. You pay somebody.
Now, one question that I don't know, in my secretive listening for many years, and now my out and open listen of your podcast. In that song, they introduce you as Geoff. Is that just because the person didn't know how to say Jeff?
Yes, and we didn't want to bother to go back and have him redo it, so we just leave it alone.
That's what I thought.
I mean, the whole song's inaccurate. It still talks about Geoff and Al is here in spirit, I guess we'd say, but he's not a regular fixture of the program. If you listen to all the lyrics, it says many things. It says Al is the big bearded guy in Missouri. Geoff is the bearded nationalist in D.C. That's what it says, which is great. I'm glad to have the bearded nationalist label upon me in the post-Trump era. I think that's very strong. For my brand.
Leading out with your best foot. Maybe it's time you go back to Fiverr.
How are things going on over there in Utah? How's the cultural
hall? Omicron is running rampant in the world, but you wouldn't know that here. Everything is, as is normal. Don't tell me what to do. We're getting together as a family because it's our right to do it as a family. Church, no masks at church yesterday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over. I mean, California just put up the indoor mask mandate again, which includes church. I don't think there's a carve out for religious organizations. We've never stopped masking here in Virginia, and I think we were maybe leaning into it. Then with Omicron, I believe the North America and Northeast leadership, I don't think they gave a mask edict, but I think like a lot of bishops were like, all right, it's not time to ease up yet. If anything, we made an announcement yesterday where they reread the letter from the pulpit back from August about the First Presidency encouraging vaccinations and masks for those who are not, the one that's pretty clear. And then also just said, hey, we're also going to keep wipes up here at the podium. We used to wipe down the podium in between every speaker for a while.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't been doing that, but they brought them up and said, hey, if you're up here and you want to wipe down the podium, we're keeping wipes up here and there's a trash can. So you do you. So we're actually kind of getting a little more into it again.
Did your ward do the favorite thing where they take the wipe over the microphone and wipe and clean the microphone after every
do that?
use?
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, I've evolved. I think I talked about this once. I evolved a little bit because way back when we were doing like Zoom stuff, I'd get up there and I'd see them like not cleaning the mic or anything. And I'd be like, guys, how are you not cleaning? Like, this is a place where people are. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, unless somebody getting up there is like putting their mouth on the microphone, a la the citizens of Pawnee with drinking fountains. Like unless they're doing that, I think the chances of you just standing there and projecting more onto the microphone, I don't think you're going to like pick something up really. But yeah, I did see the old wipe down.
And I should take this back. There were people that were wearing masks. The priesthood holders that were passing the sacrament, they wore masks yesterday, but they were like, one was hanging off the nose, one was off the chin, and I almost wanted to stop and just be like, can we just not? I mean, at the point that we're not wearing these things properly, is there a point, or is it so performative that these gentlemen wear these masks right now for everyone to feel comfortable? Like, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Let's just take them off.
Ours have consistently worn, even when we stopped for a brief bit, kind of masking back in like midsummer, probably before Delta kind of hit. Our
Delta,
our sacrament folks they've still worn masks and they wear latex gloves. They don't mess around. They stopped even using hand sanitizer. They just do that. And we still have sacrament in individual serving cups, like for the bread.
Yeah, we still do that.
So we don't rummage around. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope this Omicron stuff, I mean, they know it's really, it's a lot more contagious, but I think the jury's still out on how severe the illness can be if you get it. Some have said it's more minor. I'm hoping it will be. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I'll probably get it this week because I'm going to go see Spider-Man on Tuesday night, and that's
Oh,
apparently.
yeah? You haven't seen it yet?
No, I haven't. No
Oh.
spoilers from
Oh,
anybody.
no, I won't.
But I'm assuming that's going to be the super spreader event of the year because it's just going to be 300-400 people in a packed auditorium not caring. It's going to be great. I actually want it. This is a little bit like macabre, but I want to see the data if we can trace back a spike in COVID cases to Spider-Man screenings. If there's a way they'll be able to do this. I just wonder because if you saw it made insane money over the weekend. It made $100 million more dollars than they expected it would make. It made like Infinity War level money for an opening weekend. That's good even outside of a pandemic by every measure. And yet we're in the middle of the pandemic. I'm just curious if it'll actually like exacerbate the problem by everyone going to see Spidey. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I'm excited about this because once we get through Omicron, the next variant will be Pi.
Pi, yeah.
I'm excited for Pi.
I know. Is that the dad joke you were hoping to get in?
No, the dad joke comes later. No. I will broadcast when the joke is made.
Omicron. I memorized the Latin alphabet when I was in 7th grade because of my science class. So I've been working through the variants like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon.
Come on, sing it like you mean it. I want to hear it. Let's go.
Okay, I'll get a little bit of this wrong, I'm sure now, but it's like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, ta, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega.
There we go.
We're not at omega yet. We're okay.
Yeah, if we get to omega, does that mean that it's the second coming?
No, it's the pandemic is over officially when they can't name it anymore.
It's the end. Got it.
But I'm a little worried because we got away from Delta to Omicron pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in between. And I saw something just the other day. This is just Pfizer, but they said they don't think we'll get to an endemic level maybe until 2024. Which would mean when it's a manageable, regular occurring just thing. Like we get vaccinated for it. Some people get COVID, but life goes on. But that's still like 2 years or more from now.
Yep.
That's also a Pfizer exec, though, probably hoping to sell more vaccines. So I don't know, right? Because that's all they do. The RNA changes you.
Sure.
And the government controls your body.
I've got the chip. I got that done.
I've been doing things ever since I got my booster that I didn't even think I wasn't even conscious in doing them.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. Anywho, well, folks, we all hope you're having a great Christmas week here. Here we are on the old Twimster. We haven't done a regular news episode on Christmas week in a while. We did not do our stories of Christmas this year.
Oh, yeah. What happened? Is it because I didn't submit a story?
It's just a general lack of interest and support, really. So, typical thing. So maybe next year we'll do it. I don't know. We'll see. Everyone's busy. But there's still fun amounts of Latter-day Saint news that we can all get to this week. It's a bizarre week. And the first one I'm going to get into here, the handbook was updated last week. We got a couple different handbook updates we might be able to get to.
Sure.
One that stuck out to some folks, though, was the section on music was updated. And by the way, for some context, they're done updating the general handbook now in English. That is it. The project is finished. They said it would take a little while. It would be iterative. The iterations have stopped. They're working on foreign languages still, but that's it until they decide to update the handbook again, which I imagine they'll just do when they feel like it, like we do with everything being digital now. They'll just say, hey, but it's going to be 3 years from now and say, all right, by the by, we've updated this handbook section because, yes, now the women have the priesthood. So, no, I'm just kidding.
I didn't see that in there. I was looking for those adjustments. I did not see that.
So for the musicians among us, I don't say this has been like a huge pain point for many, but maybe it's more than I realize. But officially, at least in the handbook for a long time, the original handbook said about the musical instruments you could use in sacrament meeting. We kind of know it's like, you got the organ and piano, obviously, and then it's usually violins and things like that for special musical numbers. But it did say, quote, organs and pianos or their electronic equivalents are the standard instruments used in church meetings. If other instruments are used, they should be keeping with the spirit of the meeting. Instruments with a prominent or less worshipful sound, such as most brass and percussion, are not appropriate for sacrament meeting. And so for years, the trumpeters among us have been like, come on, guys, I want... Or the trombones among us. That's true. Sad trombone sound. So this has been the thing for a while. I've been in wards that have still had like trumpets show up here and there, usually for something like a Christmas program because it's all jolly. But everyone's kind of known that you are not allowed to have these particular instruments. No electric guitars in sacramenting. Nothing that's a prominent or less worshipful sound. That is I think that still kind of leaves. They pointed out most brass and percussion,
Not the French horn. No one needs your French horn in your
That's the thing.
sacrament
Like
meeting.
French horn is a glorious instrument. I think there's no brass instrument that just sort of shows glory more than a French horn.
Yeah, sure.
Which brass instrument has the most like glorious line? So they've updated the handbook more or less, where they got rid of this, and all they've said now is bishoprics may approve the use of other instruments to accompany congregational singing for prelude and postlude music, and in other musical selections. Musical instruments should convey a feeling of worship and be played in keeping with the spirit of the meeting. So now essentially it just means that it's open to interpretation, I guess. So if you want, your bishop says like, yes, I want the brass quartet up there playing Go Tell It on the Mountain, and that is going to happen now. And if you want to throw a banjo in for good measure, make it happen. This is great. We're only a few steps away from a worship band, and I'm really excited, Richie.
See, in my mind, I sort of think
I feel you. It's just going to be this.
Yep. Hand. Yeah, a whole lot of feeling. Whole lot of hands in the air.
A lot of hands like this, just moving.
I like the idea in my mind's eye when I read about this. I like the idea that the bishop sort of sits up on the on the stand, and then a marching band walks by, and he goes, "Approved, not approved, approved," and they just sort of make their way, and then whoever gets selected gets to stay and find their place up on the.
And the poor mellophone player will never be allowed. Yeah. The sad day.
My poor euphonium as he sits in the back.
This could be great. We could have like timpanis, and imagine if someone brought their timpanis up there. Dun 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 dun.
At this point, I see no reason why we shouldn't do it. Push the boundaries.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we still have to be reverent, which means no like ripping guitar solos. But,
well, I mean, as appropriate with worshipful, right? It can't do it every week, otherwise it loses its effect. But like fast and testimony meeting, you have someone get up and bear their testimony with a fanciful guitar riff. I've seen that before.
So wait a minute, someone for testimony meeting just got up there and did open mic night?
Yeah. It was not an electric guitar.
Yeah,
but it was when I was.
Could you imagine that? They walk up like, hold on a second, I got to plug in. Hold on.
Yeah, straight up. Got his guitar up there. I love.
It was like he jammed. It wasn't some little finger plucking.
No. It was a full on jam.
What happened to Kenneth Cope anyway? Where is Kenneth Cope?
I don't want to speculate because I don't know for sure, but I think I know. But let's just say he's around.
What does that mean?
He's around. But if you look up what happened to Kenneth Cope, I think you find real quick what happened to him.
Oh boy, okay.
You got to now, but I don't think that we can. I don't think we discuss those people's business on this.
Oh no,
because it's alleged. It's alleged stuff.
Oh,
not like he's in trouble with the law. I just mean with the church.
See, this just tells me about Kenneth Copeland, who was a televangelist. That's all I'm getting if I Google it. You get a whole lot.
You got to go minus land. There you go. Speaking of the Church Handbook of Instructions, the big miss that I feel like a lot of people haven't been talking about is the different versions of the scriptures that we can use.
Tell me more.
So, it's a long-held tradition that when you say, what Bible do you read from, we say the King James Version because it's the most accurate, blah, 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 blah. Now, the new changes to the handbook says it may be useful to use other versions of the scriptures.
That's huge.
I know that it doesn't sound like it is, and it shouldn't necessarily be, but it is a big deal, especially where for a long time we've hung our hat on the King James Version. Now they're like, listen, you need to understand more, read the new translation.
What I wonder is, do you think they've done this because like in foreign languages, there's not a King James Version. Like in Spanish, I mean, we have approved ones, of course. Like in Spanish, we use the Reina Valera version, which is the most correct. But the bottom line is, you can't perfectly just translate like literally the King James Version to every other language and have it be like the exact level of fidelity that you want for the King James Version to ensure. And then if you can't do that, the church isn't going to fully do that. Like we have done it with the Reina Valera Bible, for example. The church finally went through and annotated it and did the whole and you can get a quad in Spanish now as of like 5 years ago, which is a big deal. Yeah, so that's very cool that they're opening up to that, because I think a lot of times when folks might show up and be like, so what does this, the New World Translation say about this? And you'll hear ward members being like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
It's not the Joseph Smith translation. This is what are you doing? What are you doing?
In the old ward that I was in downtown Salt Lake, one of our Sunday school teachers actually taught from the new translation.
And what was the driving idea behind that? Like, what was the perceived
it's easier
benefit?
To understand. And said, you know what, for, a better comprehension, let's read from this. And you would have thought that he would have said, let's read from, the Quran or something like that, the way that some people reacted in that Sunday school. And I was like, guys, it's the same. I think we're missing the point. And then everyone sort of settled down. But that first time that he's like, let's look at the new translation, everyone was like, what
are there any famous passages that are in the New World Translation that like are potentially doctrinally suspect?
Probably.
I
mean, there's stuff in the King James Version where we go, yeah. But then later it says something different. So focus on the later part.
Well, I mean, like all of Songs of Solomon, for example, especially. So excited for Old Testament next year. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be a gas.
Yeah.
The best part about Old Testament is this makes sense, but it's the Old Testament, but like the very first lesson you're reading from the book of Moses instead. So you're reading, you're like, what else are you gonna do? It's Pearl of Great Price. I get it. Right. It's just kind of funny to me. It's like, no, you're not doing in the beginning there was the word and the word.
Nope. Nope.
I did not realize they've squeezed that one into the handbook, and I'm surprised fewer people aren't discussing it.
Yeah, it really is just sort of a surprise as far as all that goes.
Good pick, Richie.
What's that?
Good pick, Richie. Well done.
Thank you very much. Also, stop being a jerk online.
Tell me more about not being a jerk online.
When they're talking about trolling, right? A lot of people are ascribing this to the to come at the DesNat folks, but I think it's general populist behavior on social media and or the internet that the church has said, okay, it's time. We're saying something about it.
Yeah, it says, so the quote, it condemns, quote, threatening, bullying, degrading, violent, or otherwise abusive language or images online. In that case, there's members of Congress who stand against the Handbook of Instruction, yeah.
The thing that I would wonder about it is, do you think that it'll come to it? Like, how does this see itself out, right? Like, as the bishop screenshotted a thing from someone, one of his congregants, and then sits down and says, now, Jeff, when you told Richie to, shove it, was that the way that he should have,
well, how much other like general handbook stuff do we fail on? I mean, and then how do you, what's the value system of this here? I think this is very important, of course, but it's not like here they've ranked it or anything like that. I mean, this goes back to like, what if you violated not allowing horns in sacrament meeting previously? Is that an indictable offense in terms of like meeting with your bishop? I don't know. I think this is the kind of thing where we just have the handbook and we reference it and we say here, and people will say, here is the doctrine. Yeah. Here's what we have.
You make a good point, Jeff. Having a trumpet in sacrament meeting is equivalent to threatening someone's life on social media. They should be treated as such.
I feel like it's the same level of offense. It is for me. When I've gone to church and someone has played the trumpet, I could feel the spirit leave my body.
Yeah. How will we figure our way between those two things? That is a great point.
These are some good updates. I like the church though. I like him, codifying that and saying it's not to be trolls. And I agree, most people seem to be jumping down at DesNat. I think a lot of that primarily, though, is because it's publications like the Trib and others that are covering this. I don't even know if Deseret News is bothering to cover this story or more conservative outlets. And if they did, maybe they would then say like, hey, how about like people on the left? And then the tribalism will continue and continue and continue as we pick one another apart. But yeah, don't be a dink online, people. Like, just don't be that person.
With the election and everything of yesteryear, did you find yourself falling into that? Like I caught myself a couple times just being horrible, and then I was like, I don't really want to be this person.
You were using abusive or threatening language, Richard?
Kind of. More abusive, less threatening.
Like you just say, "Hey, you dummy."
Yeah, I was sort of being a bully.
No, I think there's been times when I've probably said something and been like, okay, that was a bit much. But I try to keep it academic but sometimes you get frustrated because one, obviously online discourse goes nowhere.
Sure.
And I mean, like, okay, digression, but like say in the wake of the election, many people saying the election was stolen, despite the fact there's no evidence to support that whatsoever, despite the fact that the lawyers who were supposed to represent the cases for that didn't actually submit anything in court to that effect, because doing so would make them legally responsible for doing so. And that should tell you a lot about the actual case about the election being stolen. But I try to explain this to people and be like, no, the whole thing was stolen. It's all a conspiracy. There's irregularities, all the usual stuff you see. And then you can put out easy things to prove any of this, to refute any of those points. And there will grow moments when you get so frustrated and you're like, dude, I understand that your brain is smaller than that of a squirrel or some line like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what you have to resist. You have to resist that. You have
yeah,
to, I mean, it's,
I didn't have the self-control to resist that on occasion.
I'm not perfect either. I try to be better about it, but I don't know. What can you do? What can you do? It's do you ever find yourself like, does part of you ever like hope to see some of the more out there, outspoken types on your social media feed? Like you're waiting for them to share something that you can then jump on once more. Like, do you yearn for this experience
Yeah.
in a
I
perverse way?
absolutely used to do that. Like in the height of everything, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for this thing. And then post it on this person's wall, send it in their messenger, find their email address and send it to them. And then say, hey, what do you think? What are we saying? What about this? I've tried to get away from that.
That's probably better. It's for the best.
It's for the betterment.
One other handbook change just before we go, coming back to music, another cool update that I didn't want us to walk away from is they mentioned as well that sacred music that is written or sung in culturally diverse musical styles may help unify congregations. Music coordinators and priesthood leaders may include a variety of appropriate musical styles that appeal to members of various backgrounds. Two things. The first one, real quick, I saw some upset over the weekend that this last clause says music coordinators and priesthood leaders, implying that ward music chairs are unable to operate with autonomy. I saw some interesting Twitter threads actually with people telling their experience of like, oh no, I had bishops who would like make me I'd have to approve every hymn every Sunday.
That's how it is in the handbook.
They put the kibosh down, and that is what it says. I've been in a lot of wards where that's on paper, but the music leader's just doing what they do, and that's it. But anyway, so that's something to consider. It does say priesthood leaders. Is that an example of the patriarchy lording over stuff? I don't know. I mean, I think almost every auxiliary point in the handbook says so-and-so and priesthood leaders, because it all comes back to that. But I think this is the big thing here, though, is culturally diverse musical styles. I don't know what this could also open things up to, but I think it's great the church is sort of recognizing that our membership is diverse and in many ways trying to export what's essentially American Protestantism approach to the way we do our hymns. Doesn't fit every single mold, at least abroad, especially outside the U.S. So I'm all for anything that makes it seem less like we're trying to export American social norms to other countries.
Well, the thing that I'm excited for most is that this opens me up for the opportunity to release my lounge style hymns.
Absolutely.
That I'll be doing in 2022. It's basically me with a microphone. I have a snare drum in front of me and a soft bristle fan drumstick that I'm just gonna. If you could hide to go loud in the twinkling of an eye.
Richie, where were you back in like 2001, man? I did this. We could have done this together. We did a road show, the last road show I'm aware of since then in my stake. And I'll spare you the whole plot of the road show, but there was a sequence.
They had
a plot? They did. They were on the internet and they stumbled across a website that had like a lounge singer, and I got up there, I wore like a velvet suit and I did Give Said the Little Stream. Give said the little stream. Hey.
If people are wondering, we are the same person.
The only fundamental difference being 100 years ago in America, I would not be socially abused for having red hair.
Right.
So
that is literally the only difference.
You would have trouble as an immigrant 100 years
Thank
ago.
you. Thank you.
I, on the other hand, I just look like a beautiful Englishman.
Hey, you just look real American. Should we move along to? Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, now we've gone crazy.
Richie, I'm here, baby.
It's not me, it's you.
No, I'm here. I'm here. What's going on, Richie? Don't make me edit this stuff out. It takes more time. Please stand by. don't know where Richie went, everybody. I don't even know if he can hear me. But I'm here for him. He's just staring into the void. He's not there.
Okay, the music is coming through now.
Oh, hello, Richie.
Your video is really bad.
That's just the... Can you hear me, though?
Yeah.
So just talk, man. Just talk.
Now I can hear you. The music was real bad for a minute.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Maybe you need to talk to your tenants about their internet connect quality.
It's not me.
Well, it's not me.
I'm still hearing music.
Yeah, it's because I'm playing it. There.
Perfect.
So where were you?
Let's make... you went garbly.
Yeah. Anyways, you were gonna move on.
Yeah, I was gonna move on. I was gonna make the hard segue.
Go ahead, make the hard segue.
Let us take a drive up to small town Utah, to the Cache Valley, where oh geez, if you followed this at all, the Utah State University police chief is in the news. And I should probably make this warning that this could be triggering for folks talking about sexual assault, talking about rape and or other things. The Utah State Police Chief Earl Morris warned the Utah State University football team that LDS women will often tell their bishop when questioned about whether or not their sex was consensual, that it's easier, that they might be feeling regret, he continued, for having sex before marriage, which goes against the faith teachings of abstinence, and says, and if you're not used to a Mormon community, folks, I'm here to tell you, the Latter-day Saints community, young ladies, they may have sex with you, but then they're going to, report to their bishops and say that it may not, in fact, be consensual. Members of the team laughed and hollered in response to Morris's comments. Morris, who is no longer the Utah State University police chief, he has since stepped down. It's interesting that the case that's being made about a couple parts of this is, one is certainly that he said that, and that's horrible and reprehensible, and people very quickly came out and said that. But in some way and or fashion, the football coach complicit in it, in that he didn't say, "Oh, hey, hang on, don't be telling these people this," but that they've opened a separate investigation into the coach of the Utah State University football team. And the thing that's interesting and why people are saying that they did that is Utah State played a bowl game on Saturday, and if they hadn't had said, we're doing a separate investigation into the football coach, he probably would have had to not be the coach for that bowl game. So sports builds character.
Heaven forbid we have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And they have recording of the coach, Blake Anderson, saying it has never been more glamorized to be a victim of sexual assault. I mean, like, they have audio of him saying, I'm saying it still merits due diligence, 100%. But I say, guess what? Unless this is a terrible hit job, like, was this all put out there by the opposing team with the hope?
Yeah, Oregon State was like, let's get them, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what this was all about. This is like, this is hardcore oppositional research that's between collegiate football. He's apologized, Coach Anderson, but I mean, come on. If the sheriff has gotten in trouble, I think the coach should also get in trouble.
Well, and it's a lot of trouble up at Utah State because you dial the clock back like a year from right now, and there was the story up there with the football team where they were going to hire somebody. I can't remember. Maybe it was the head coach, or maybe it was one of the assistant coaches or whatever. And that coach was not a member of the church, and someone said something to the effect of like, "Oh no, we can't have a member of the church," or "He wasn't a member of the church, and we need a member of the church." It just seems like someone needs to get that football team kind of in order and be like, "Okay, guys, what are we doing here?"
It also speaks to sort of the dual standards we sometimes have with athletics.
Sure.
At universities, right? Like, oh, well, the football players are just going to do what they do, and we just have to accommodate them and not. I mean, I'm sure you see this even at BYU.
Sure.
Where, oh yeah, all the football players, they've signed the honor code. That's not to say any of us are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a culture of looking the other way when it comes to the malfeasance of athletes in college, because they mean big money, they mean a lot of good things for a university, and why would you want to turn off that pipe?
It's worth bringing up briefly, and I know this wasn't in our list of stuff, but it resurfaced again about BYU and the BYU Police Department.
I saw that, yeah.
There was another article that came out, and I think was from the Salt Lake Tribune, talking about how the BYU Police Department, they worked in collaboration with the Honor Code Office at Brigham Young
collusion
University.
Is the word you want to use here. This is you can use collusion finally in its appropriate context.
Said, hey, you know what? Here, this happened off campus with these people. You should know about this Honor Code Office. Now, this is not something that has happened recently. This is something that just has sort of surfaced recently, but this was happening 5 or 6 years ago, and the police department has been chastened, but the university itself has not, for its collaboration with the police department.
Which is and if you remember, BYU's police department was at the risk of being decertified. And I saw a follow-up story as well. It's interesting because it said the state was trying really hard to disband BYU's police force, which in the end they chose not to do.
Right.
I mean, they're the ones in the position to do it. So it was an interesting bit of reporting, because it's like the state was saying we really wanted to just disband their police force and make Provo PD over the school, but they still didn't fall. They're the ones who held the cards to do so. And this is a good example of, like, seeing this, to me, like, I love BYU, but it tells me maybe it would be the worst thing if it was just the municipal police department from Provo just also handled stuff on campus. Just, I don't, in different universities, this is not uncommon. A lot of universities have their own police forces.
Sure.
But I imagine, but it just looks worse and worse when it seems like BYU's is like this, an appendage of the Honor Code Office.
Yeah.
A nice excuse to sort of do our own thing autonomously with less accountability and all that kind of stuff. And it's
and this is one of those situations where you can't dismiss it by saying, well, if they don't like the way that it is, they should go to a different school. It's just not the way that should occur, right? That's just not the practice. It's not a legal practice. It's not a moral, ethical way to be able to do it. Worth noting too, as we sort of put the button on both policing and football teams. Remember that team that you had to look up that BYU played in the bowl that they lost to over the weekend? It's worth making the mention that BYU lost to UAB over the weekend when they announced that they were going to be playing in the Independence Bowl. And everyone went, who is that team? We deserve better. We should be playing on New Year's Day. Well, we lost to them over the weekend. So way to go.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't even know that they played. That's great that they played. Good for them.
Lost in their bowl game.
Who's the other? What is UAB? University.
UAB is it's an Alabama team that isn't Alabama.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right, moving on here. Random thing from the church news. I'm this is mostly me questioning why they put it up. So updated on the 16th of December, 2021. Which countries have the largest percentages of their populations as Latter-day Saints? This is always a fun thing that they update. It's fun to see which countries are densely LDS. The hilarious thing is the way they've cropped the map, where like Europe isn't even in the map at all, because it's Europe and the Middle East make no appearance whatsoever.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even notice that.
And not Africa either. And I'm curious if that'll change over time, because every single country on this list is basically the United States, then Latin America, and then Micronesia, Polynesia, Melanesia, just a bunch of Pacific islands. And that's basically the entire thing, truly. Not even the Philippines makes the list, because the Philippines has tons of members, but the Philippines also has tons of people. So this is a per capita situation. So Tonga continues to top the list. Tonga is 63.5% Latter-day Saint. And of course, we don't know what activity rates are or anything like that. This is just what's on the books. Samoa is 42.5%. American Samoa is 29.8%, which is amazing to me that it's taken us that long to get American Samoa its own temple. They just broke ground on the temple in American Samoa, and it's been number 3 on Latter-day Saints per capita for all this time.
So I know you're nerdy about this, so let me ask you this as just someone who does not know. I know there's Samoa and American Samoa. Yeah. Is it like North and South Korea, like they touch each other and they're just
they're right next to one another. There's ocean between them, but it's all part of the greater Samoan Islands. It's just, it's essentially a nation split between two states. You have Samoa, which is like the independent country, Kingdom of Samoa, and then American Samoa is a territory of the United States.
So they are separate islands, though.
Yeah, separate couple of islands.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe is the original Samoa was called Western Samoa originally. I'm getting my geography mixed up. I think so. I think American Samoa is east of it, and then Anyway, so a lot of those, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, French Polynesia, and Niue is fun because it's like the least populated country in the world, but it's still 8.7% Latter-day Saint. It's a country with like 200 people or something like that. It's crazy.
Awesome.
So a ton of that. It's all Pacific Island nations until you get to Chile, which is finally 3.2%. Good on Uruguay, by the way. Uruguay's 3.1% Latter-day Saint, but they still have one temple. That's something to keep an eye on because Chile has like 4 in the works now. So the list goes on. The United States is number 17. Costa Rica's up there, number 34. This is all well and good. It's fun to see this information. I look forward to when they update this. I think you're just going to kind of see this group of countries sort of jockeying for position. I don't think maybe at some point we might get like Ghana or Nigeria has a lot of members, but Nigeria also has like 200 million people. So Jeez. That's hard. So might depend a bit and take some time. The curious thing about this though, oh, sorry, Richie, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you glossed right over the big, the non-headline headline of this
I'm getting there. This is what we call burying the lead.
Yeah, thank you. That works real well in media.
But so this is all well and interesting, but the thing is they point out they're using 2019 statistics, which they did last year when they published this same thing. So basically this is not new information as far as we know. I mean, I haven't Wayback Machined this URL to see if anything's changed. But it's still actually a fresh URL. There's the date. So it's 2019 statistics. This goes back to the whole thing about the church refusing to release 2020 statistics broken down by country or state.
Mm-hmm.
They say because the data is corrupted. They say the data is inaccurate because many kids were born or blessed or this and that, which I think some data could be messed up. Sure. Sacrament attendance data would make no sense in 2020, especially as a measure of like funding for your ward budget, like it's been and stuff. Like I get that. But if you're talking membership numbers, like we know if people got baptized even during the pandemic, full stop.
Sure.
If kids were born, many of them were just blessed at home or some over Zoom or whatever. I did that last year. We blessed our kid at home. You still generate a record of it. Like, unless the ward is just failing to do its administrative work, there's no reason why that data should also be a problem. And if you're talking about church membership growth, it's literally just convert baptisms and children of record baptisms, which still happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then baby blessings aren't even like on the records necessarily. I mean, your kid's in the records, but they're not counted as church membership anyway until they're baptized. And so I struggle to see how you could not accurately report what did happen in 2020 and how the data could be incorrect despite what they've said. I just don't. Yes. What's up, Rich?
No, you got to, it's not what's up, who's there. That's what you say. Who's there? Say, who's there?
Who's there?
Controlling the message so that headlines don't read things that we don't want them to.
As you heard us say, yes, we said this. I don't know if you heard our episode a few weeks ago, which is the exact thing we said. Because even if it's true, if the headline reads that church membership actually declined in the U.S. because of deaths exceeding convert baptisms and child of record baptisms that year, even if that's perfectly validated by the pandemic, exactly, the headline becomes Mormons have negative growth in the United States.
Right.
And then
you're never going to see us put something like that out. And because too many people are like, and we're the fastest growing, and that's where they sort of hang their hat of testimony as far as that goes. But also there's not going to be any group that's like, you release your 2020 statistics. We need them now. Right. You and I are talking about it. There's a couple people over there.
Jana Reese is talking about it. Jana Reese is mad. She needs it.
There's a dozen of us.
There are dozens of us. Dozens. We're like never nudes. Yeah, I agree. I just for the sake of like fidelity, it just bugs me. I totally get the PR reasons why you don't do it, but I'm still like, guys, like who cares? If it's a blip, it's a blip. But like, I want to know.
The damage from the blip is greater than the worth of putting it out.
It's kind of like, yes, I know. The PR matters so much, even for a global church. You think it's all about faith. People, my Washington, D.C. temple has been done being renovated for a year and a half.
Yep.
But we haven't rededicated it yet because the PR is too valuable for a temple dedication of that magnitude and an open house than just dedicating it and letting us get back to work with it. Like, when you think about that, like the saints have continued to have to drive to Philadelphia or Raleigh to go to the temple, and they'll have had to do so for like 20 extra months because the PR is too important in this case.
Well,
And
but the
that's
other side of
sometimes
that,
how it
they
is.
would say, is that there hasn't been as many opportunities because up until just last week, some temples within the church were constantly, at some level of being closed. It wasn't until midweek last week where all temples were
Every
opened,
temple,
at
yeah.
least in some fashion. So it's not like they've missed out a ton on
Not a
on the
ton, but I
service.
mean, considering Philly stayed open like this whole time since
Mm-hmm.
they did it, I get that, but I think that would just be kind of you'd be hiding behind that one, I think. But it's fine.
Sure.
I get it. Like PRs, like okay, fine. The public relations are more important than the actual thing we're doing. Okay,
Well,
that's
and
okay.
and
That's part
yeah,
of it. That's okay.
and with Washington D.C., where it's such an international sort of crossroads for world leaders and things like that to be able to come and be able to experience a temple, of course, of
Yeah, of
course.
course, of course,
Sorry,
of course.
sorry, Geoff.
Oh, the
Real,
bearded nationalist has not had his day.
a real
Very
quick
sad.
thing about Tonga, they just for being as many members of the church as densely populated, they finally got their first YSA ward in Tonga. They met for the first time just 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Henry Lau. Ooh, let me just say his name is
Don't
Henry.
try it.
Bishop Henry has been called to serve as the bishop of the ward. Loving it. Loves the fact that there is finally a ward there. Says, quote, "It's such a beautiful and historic thing to be a part of, and I can't wait to enjoy this ward together with my fellow YSAs." So way to go, Tonga, with your first YSA ward.
Good on ya. And it's funny I mean, it was only less than 2 years ago they did the first YSA award in Asia and Singapore. We had some disagreement because there was one that was kind of not there in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And they organized the first young single award in Latin America in Mexico City only this year. And that one is the one that really surprises me. You would have thought Latin America would have singles awards by now, but I've actually got a list here if you're curious about this. I think the church maintains this too, but yeah. The Philippines, Tonga, Kiribati has one. Singapore, Botswana has a YSA
Oh,
award.
good.
New Zealand,
I've
Botswana
heard the
rocks, man.
events in the Botswana YSA ward are real great.
Don't mess with Gaborone, dude. They know
No.
what's up. Botswana has a better credit rating than most European countries. Botswana
Hmm.
is a miracle country.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful place, minus the HIVs they have to deal with. But other
Oof.
than that, it's hard. Like that's a hard thing in the region. Like when you've got 30% of your country still deals with HIV. That
Oh,
sucks.
wow. I didn't realize that.
That sucks. I'm probably getting the stat a little bit wrong, but that's
That was a real downer stat to bring into that conversation.
thank you. Sorry, 24.8%.
Okay.
Close enough. All right, I'm going to bounce around here. Hey, do you want to know about 6 places where Joseph Smith spent Christmas?
Yes.
Because this is what the church news wants you to know. 6 places where he spent Christmas. Any year could go by, and he might have, and it was Christmas time.
Yeah.
And he spent it somewhere. Spoiler alert, not Utah.
Yeah, no, he never made it.
Yeah. The new OK Whitney store in Kirtland, Ohio, the home of Joseph Smith Sr. in Kirtland, Ohio. He spent Christmas in Liberty Jail. That's actually a fair one to point out. We might gloss over that or not think about the dates, but he was there. He was in Hiram and Sarah Kimball's home in Nauvoo, Illinois, the Nauvoo house or the mansion house in Nauvoo, Illinois. And those are the 6 places where he spent Christmas.
Yeah, he didn't spend it anywhere else.
That's
only those 6.
And there's also the Smith family home, of course. But this is an article in the church news, and
it's important that we know it. I had never been to the birthplace of the prophet until just earlier this year. A couple months ago, I went to the birthplace.
How was that up there in Sharon?
It's actually pretty cool. We went there in the fall time, so absolutely gorgeous to have your northeast fall. You know about that, but all of us Western folks, it's brown 9 months out of the year.
I've still never done a New England fall, which is a whole other level of fall. So I would love to do that too. That'd be cool.
But I mean, it's been a monument for a good amount of years. I thought it was one of the ones that sort of came around with the 80s, and it wasn't. It was one that had been around much longer than that. So there's horse and buggy systems of how they got the monolith there on the top of the hill, and you can learn about Brother Wood, who is a fascinating character within church history, who bought that particular piece of property and donated it to the church. And he has this weird place in North Salt Lake where he's got like the plaster cast of the original temple oxen in the Salt Lake Temple. Like he's a collector of odd things, his family, and it's been passed down. It looks like a junkyard, and he's got all sorts of crazy things, the Wood family, as far as that goes. But anyway, I digress. It was cool. It was fun. It was fun to be able to go to that. My wife, who's not a member of the church, has said, as we went there, so we're here because this is where he was born. She sort of misses the nostalgia and or the spiritual elements of those things. Like we've been to several temples and she gets it as far as that goes, but she's like, so we're going to where he was born. Okay.
Well, I guess from an outside perspective, it could be curious, but I think we also, we have famous birthplaces for all kinds of, like you can go to Abraham Lincoln's birthplace
Sure.
in Kentucky, and that's a big deal. I've been to Ulysses S. Grant's birthplace in Ohio. It's right.
Oh, really?
It's this random little pullover in Southern Ohio, and you're like, yes, this here we are. This is happening. And Richard Nixon was born just a few miles from the house I grew up, and that's where his presidential library is today. It's his birthplace, his presidential museum, and his burial place. He really just he just put it all in one spot.
Yeah,
just the entire Richard Nixon experience is localized.
Opening fall 2023, the Richard Nixon experience. I'd go to that.
I would. Why would you want? I'm so happy that the one president my homeland produced. We got freaking Richard Nixon. That's who we gave to the world. You're welcome, everybody who gave you Richard.
Jeez. Well, I feel like there is a research piece being culled together right now by the Tribune to find out the other places Joseph Smith spent Christmas. I feel like that's an article that will come out later this week. In sort of a lighter thing, since we've been fairly heavy so far, I found a lot of interest in this. From A Christmas Story to the Santa Claus 3, 8 movies that have included the Tabernacle Choir. And so to me, I hear that headline and I think, okay, these are all going to be Christmas movies that the music from the Tabernacle Choir has been featured. Oh, 'tis not so.
The very first one.
Yeah, Evan Almighty of the not great sequel of Bruce Almighty about building Noah's Ark. This Land Is Your Land. I'll mention these quick. Deck the Halls is in the movie Joy to the World.
Well, how about this one, though? The movie Nixon, the very rated R biopic of Richard Nixon.
Oh, you scanned down too much.
I'm sorry.
No, wait, I don't even see that on my list.
You're looking at the list from LDS Living, correct?
Correct.
Evan Almighty. Okay, continue. I will not.
Then I saw Deck the Halls is in Joy to the World. The Santa Claus 3, again, a sequel to a Christmas movie that didn't need to happen. The first one, I'll allow it, but you don't really need it. That's the Hallelujah Chorus. Madagascar Has Born Free. The Stepford Wives and the Star Spangled Banner. Shenandoah. Oh, there you go. In Nixon. Okay. I like that song. That's a great version of that song, too. If you haven't ever heard.
A Christmas Story Has Silent Night. And then number 8, total deep cut here. UHF.
Weird Al Yankovic. Where is the Battle Hymn of the Republic in UHF?
I don't remember. I haven't seen that in so long.
Let's see.
It's got Michael Richards before he was Kramer. It is a gem.
Oh yeah. It was before he said all the things that made everyone not like him. Kramer.
Oh yeah. This list is perfectly fun. I wonder about this, like in terms of licensing, though. Like the church is like, yeah, it's cool. You can use our recording for the Stepford Wives. Like, is that part of our ministry? I mean, the Tabernacle Choir is officially a mission. Mike Levitt's making sure of this. Is he going to license this stuff to the next great R-rated biopic of our day?
You know how it works?
Tell me.
Hey, we're going to give you a lot of money. And we want to use your song. Okay, we will take your lot of money. Thank you.
And then do we say it's just wonderful? We're getting our product out there.
Yes,
that's the deal.
Yes.
But what about guilt by association?
Nope.
Right? What if it
doesn't apply?
You're watching Nixon and he's swearing up a storm, and then you hear the Tabernacle Choir singing, and you're like, "This is a weird incongruence. I don't know how I feel. I'm feeling the spirit, and I'm feeling Anthony Hopkins' rage at the same time, and I don't know what to do with these feelings."
I feel like if within the thing they would have said, "Pause as we play a song from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints," like that, I feel like is to the point that you're talking about.
It's probably. I love it. It's in the credits at some point. You watch this whole movie, and it'll be. I know it's not. None of this is a big deal. I just think it's a curiosity,
and they get paid money for it. Why not? I allow a lot of things when people are saying, you know what, we can do good things with that money.
You need to have standards, man.
Nope. We'll not do that.
We talked about a few weeks ago that the temple president of the Seoul, South Korea Temple unexpectedly passed away.
It was COVID, right?
Did they actually say it was COVID? I don't
Oh,
remember if
maybe
they
not.
said it was
Maybe I'm
COVID.
thinking of something else.
But he passed away, and they don't really. I don't think they even mentioned this in the article that this is the reason why this is actually a story. This is one of these funny things when they bother to make a story of a new temple president being called, but don't explain the context of why this is randomly happening at this point in time. So they've called a new temple president for the Seoul, Korea, after the previous one unfortunately passed away. So Oh Hee-kun of the Seoul, Korea West Sikh is now the president of that. They do have mention though. So he's succeeding President Kim Chi-won, who died in November. So there we go. They did make a mention of that. My bad. Retract. So there you go. He's been called.
In a matter of quick news, kind of going along with that, the groundbreaking for the new temple in West Africa, the Freetown Sierra Leone Temple, 2.9 acre site. Looking at the rendering of said temple, no Moroni.
Shocker. Interesting steeple though in the cupola. That's a different design though.
Yeah, what would you call that? That's sort of
That's an interesting one. Usually they it's like they took a typical cupola on the top and just kind of kept stretching, just kind of kept going. It's like if you
they
had a
heat it
design
up
of
real hot and then they just
It's like if you put a cupola in Photoshop, folks, or anything, and then dragged it to just kind of stretch out the image. That's what you get. So it's interesting in that case. 18,000 square feet, so not tiny. It's okay size.
I like that there's going to be housing, presidency apartments, and ordnance worker apartments adjacent. So it will be a sort of a place that people can come and reside for a bit. Obviously, as they get called on missions there to be able to function within that temple. 18,000 square feet. That's fairly small. Yeah.
It's okay size.
As far as temples?
It's not. It does not make it a large temple, but it's kind of the size of the second round of mini temples, like the Newport Beaches, Lubbock, San Antonio's, Sacramento temples of the world, like kind of that size. It's about that. So it'll do. This is my bishop is from Sierra Leone, so this has been really fun to track with him since they announced the temple, and he's been like well aware of all the details. He's like, I know exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go on this compound right next to the U.S. Embassy. And like, oh, yep, that's where it's going. He's been a great source of information for this. So.
It's the 18th temple in Africa.
That's the amazing thing I was about to pull out. Think about that, Richie. Before like 2000, gosh, it was like 2010.
Yep.
And we still just had 3 temples in Africa. That is just firing on all cylinders. That's great.
In the particular temple district for the Sierra Leone, it's 21,000 saints. So that's a pretty big deal. 70 congregations that will be served by that Freetown.
Also interesting
temple.
that they're actually saying what the district will be. A lot of the time they don't make any mention of that until they might say how many saints are in the country. But I'm assuming this is just going to be one and the same, where the district it does say temple district. So maybe in this case they're just clearly saying the saints of Sierra Leone will be the temple's district, unless the saints of Liberia also get assigned to it. I'm not quite sure how it'll be, but they often don't. Like we still don't know officially. I don't even think like what the Orem Temple District is going to be.
Right.
Like they're building it, but they haven't announced what those lines are going to be. But in this case,
now I want to hold us true to what I try and hold true to. We're almost at an hour. So I want to make sure that we get this stuff in, because when you post something that's longer than an hour, I audibly say at the gym as I'm listening to stuff, things like, come on, Jeff, what could you possibly have talked about on a non-news week that took you an hour and 15 minutes?
I was hoping you just groan and it makes everyone look at you really weird. Just go, oh,
is he okay? I do that, but not at the length of podcasts. What is this? I didn't read this story, I'll be honest with you. The new project for the British Isles.
Basically, it's real quick. This came out of the UK newsroom, and this is not to be confused with the Saints Volume 3, which is going to be about the British Isles. But they want to basically compile the stories of the units. It's a 2-year project called the Unit History Project. It's an ambitious attempt to provide a brief history of all the congregations of the church in Great Britain, also in the Crown dependencies of like Guernsey, Jersey, and the Isle of Man. And they're asking them to create summaries and send them to James Perry at churchofjesuschrist.org. So if you are in the UK, do that. If you're interested in the UK and just want to make up stories and send them to James, do that.
Well, so they do that here. Like I was my ward historian for a hot minute, and you have to do that as well. Who are the bishops? Who have served? What has it been? What area? All that stuff. So it just seems like they're expanding that out. No, guys, we're really serious. Do this.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm game. I'm game for it.
What I also wanted to ask you about this because it's in Spanish, I presume. That's why I can't read it. It seems
Oh,
like
you
you
weak
just wanted
man.
to cram in a story about your mission. So please
I
regale me with the
literally did.
tales.
Do you want to know why? Because the city I mentioned here, Tarragona, was my longest mission area. So this is beyond just wanting to talk about Spain. This is literally my old ward. So that headed this up. So, and this was not. It's not like they have stuff for every ward. But anyways, they did a religion night basically in Tarragona, Spain. Tarragona is about an hour south of Barcelona on the coast. Kind of cool. Basically, but what's cool here is the church actually partnered with, according to what I'm reading here on the program. I think they partnered with where is that? They partnered with like UNICEF, or is it? Where'd it go? I had it written somewhere here. Yes, UNESCO, not UNICEF. The UNESCO group, the interreligious group of UNESCO and the City Hall of Tarragona helped organize a religion night where different religions came to the chapel and got to show off what they were doing and talk about what was going on and stuff like that. They've apparently got sister missionaries in Tarragona now, which is huge.
They had to get in and clean up what you did.
Probably. And it's great. And I just think this is cool. They did this. It's cool if they do this anywhere. I think it's very fun for me to see that they did this in my old ward, and they have a new building that they did not have when I was there. I also crack up because the program for it was all in Catalan. Not going to bore the listeners with my usual stuff here. But if you look at the image of the program, this goes back to like the church making decisions on language and culture and stuff like that, because this program is all, it says here, it does not say in Spanish, it says Las Iglesias de Jesus Cristo Santos dels Darreros Días, un convida de la nit de las religions, portas obertas, visita guiada en grups petits, xerrada de presentació dels diferents programes que realitzassa la Iglesia, like very Catalan, but everything else is in Spanish, like the family search banner, the Book of Mormon in Spanish, the missionaries have Spanish tags. This goes back to my mission, how it boggled my mind we had no Catalan language program for the mission, because it's like a big thing there. And when you go to church and the rule is church has to be in Spanish, but prayers and testimonies can be in whatever language you want, and all the majority Catalan members seize on that and just get up to the pulpit and just blabber in Catalan during testimony meetings, it's the only chance they can. It might be an opportunity to ask yourself, should we be thinking about whether we're meeting the cultural needs of this part of the church? You understand the other side of it. The church has many members from elsewhere in Spain, living all around the country, of course. Lots of Latin American immigrants who don't speak Catalan, but at the same time, you could say, well, they prefer Catalan here. We should just assume they all learn Catalan. I don't know. Who knows?
Is it similar to like Portuguese and Spanish? Like it's sort of the same. Like you can pick out a lot of words, but you're not really getting the whole gist.
Yeah. Pretty much. Okay. It's like that. You can get there. Yeah. So, but it's cool they're doing this either way. I'd love all of that stuff aside. I think ecumenism like this is awesome, and we should embrace it. You should do a religion night in your ward. Like get the local people together and talk about that. Especially because President Oaks spoke about the importance of church before speaking about the importance of our church. Let's just talk about the importance of churches in general. Do something.
There's a great article that's based on a book called LDS Christians and Sikhs. This is the result of an inspiration that the author, whose name is Kashmir Litter, had to invite Sikhs to come to Christ. And it's just sort of a fascinating article about this one particular gentleman, Kashmir, how he found the church and what his sort of intersection with the church has been to his conversion, how his life has been, having the opportunity to pray about Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, and sort of sets that up as an opportunity to share with other Sikhs about how he found his faith within the LDS Church.
Yeah, I think this is cool. Very cool to do this. Also interesting, his name is Kashmir Leader, because if you flip it around, there's also the Leader River in Kashmir, India.
Oh, you say it Leader. Okay.
I don't know. No, it might be Litter. It's probably Litter. Okay. I don't know. Lidar, but it just makes me, it's just, his name is Kashmir Litter. But in Kashmir, India, or contested India, there is the Litter River as well.
So where I feel like there was a miss on the title of this book, I think that it should have been Seek the Lord. And that was the dad joke earlier referenced.
Everyone stayed to get that.
I just feel, I feel like there's the opportunity to make that reference. Anyway, it is a fascinating read. I'd like to actually pick up the book and find out more about it, because I know very little, if not nothing, about Sikhs and what they believe.
Sikhism. Go look up their holy city on it's gorgeous stuff. Trust me, you'll enjoy that. All right, we're going to go out on a high note today, real quick. remember a few weeks ago we talked about this Idaho sheriff who allegedly drew his weapon upon a youth group from our church. It was young women who were just trying to they were just like spreading cheer at his doorstep, and he's like, "What the f are you doing?" and starts like threatening all of them. That's the shorter version of it. That's leaving out a lot of details. Anyway, he's now facing felony charges for allegedly threatening a group with a gun in November.
Well,
felony aggravated assault and aggravated battery. And misdemeanor exhibition of a gun.
I think it's worth noting because all of the details I don't think had come out like this. So let's take the dive for people who don't maybe necessarily know it. The young women group doing thankful turkeys, which if you don't know,
you're gonna get to the Ring doorbell footage because that part's great.
Do you have it? I haven't been able to see it.
I haven't seen it, but they've got the audio from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're dropping off thankful turkeys, right? I think it literally is just like you think that it is. You put your hand on a paper and you trace it. And it looks like a turkey, and then in the middle of it, it says, "We're thankful for you." Now, this sheriff, I think he's sort of a how do we don't call them inactive members of the church?
No, he's a Jack Mormon. That's his name.
But but he's on the records of the church. That's why the young women are there leaving this thankful turkey.
Yes.
He comes out, and apparently, like to your point, in the Ring doorbell footage, Roland is shown looking at the turkey and can be heard saying, "Thank you," and "That's frickin' BS." I love that he said "That's frickin' BS" because that's a direct quote from the Ring footage. Roland said that he saw a vehicle driving down the road. He stopped that vehicle. The car did not look familiar to him, and he said, "I reach in and pull the driver out by the hair. I say, 'Who the F are you?' And I do have a gun in my hand, but I still have the trigger on, I still have my finger on the slide." So he doesn't have the finger on the trigger, but he has it on the side of the gun as he points it towards the woman's head, just a few inches away from her forehead. The woman later identified herself as a neighbor, family, friend for over 3 decades. And he says, "I didn't recognize her. I don't know. I didn't know who she was."
The interesting thing here is he said he'd had a single alcoholic drink that night, but he was clear-headed, which if you just had one drink, he's probably mostly okay. But he said he and his wife had received many threats in recent months, so it caused them to be concerned about people at their home. He said, quote, I've had drunk Indians drive down my cul-de-sac. I've had drunk Indians come to my door. I live just off the reservation. We have a lot of reservation people around us that are not good people. Hoo boy.
It's all sorts of terrible. The girls described that he was upset dropping the F-bombs, and you know that's how the girls described it too. He was dropping F-bombs multiple times. Several of them recall Roland pointing the gun at the leader's head.
Get the F out of here.
Yeah, it's just...
This was in Blackfoot, right? Is that where this actually happened?
Yeah.
Well, he's been charged.
I like this. The parent expressed disappointment in statements given to media from local Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saint communication officials who said that this situation was most likely a misunderstanding.
That's good. I actually really appreciate that because I think sometimes we're so afraid to say anything that might make the church look negative, right? And I'm glad these parents are saying dude, guys, this is not a misunderstanding. Yep. This guy came out and pulled a gun on us and swore at us.
Yep.
Sure, he might have misunderstood the context of the situation, but that doesn't justify his behavior.
No.
That's
too much.
Yeah, it's so good on them for doing that. It's too much. Well, this has been a delight. What a delight. Make your Monday a delight, as the brethren like to say.
I hope that you have a Merry Christmas.
You too, Richie. You guys doing anything big?
We were supposed to go out of town, but the weather's terrible, so nope.
So just hanging out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal. We were supposed to, we're going to be, my sister got here though. We're going to have fun. It's going to be great. What?
Quarantine down. Omicron.
Pi, Rho, Sigma, Upsilon, Phi, Chi,
That's pretty impressive.
It's just been in my head for years. Mrs. Lane, she taught me so much. Folks, please join us at thisweekinmormons.com. Subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already, obviously, and that would be super cool of you. And we want to put the plug in for Patreon. Give Christmas cheer is $3 of your money every month to help support this show. That would be awesome. Patreon.com/thisweekinmormons. Also, go give some love to the Cultural Hall over at theculturalhall.com or wherever you get podcasts. You can hear what Richie's up to, making things happen there. And he too has patrons on Patreon. So
you can find us.
you can do it there too. So I'd like to thank Richie for being here. Good to see you, Richie.
Yeah. Your voice woke up. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much.
It was the singing. It was the singing of the Greek letters. I think that
I had to warm up, just like I did with. I was the MC at the Ward Christmas party this past week, so that was fun too. You would do a better job than I would.
Stop,
I'm sure,
stop
it. It was okay. I stand up there with my dry humor, and people are like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, yeah, this is
he
awesome,
joking?
right? Yeah, pretty much. All right, folks. Well, we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. We'll talk to you on the flip side of that. Be safe out there if you're traveling and everything like that. And until then, for Richie, I'm Jeff. This has been This Week in Mormons, and we'll talk to you later. Merry Christmas.